Imagine playing like a massive blockbuster video game, right?
Yeah, one with millions of dollars in budget.
Exactly. But then you find out the most atmospheric, dynamically weathered level wasn't built by that multi-million-dollar studio at all. It was actually hacked together by a single fan using basically digital duct tape.
Pretty wild to think about.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring this fascinating Discord log that tracks the development of a custom Battlefield 6 map. It's called Dawn of War.
Right, made by a community member named Marcus who goes by DJsparco online.
Yeah, and our mission today is to see how this one dedicated fan pushed the absolute boundaries of the game's map-making tools to give you, the player, a totally fresh experience, because the creativity here is just off the charts.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, before we even talk about the gameplay or the mechanics, you really have to look at the atmosphere Marcus built.
Oh, for sure.
It's an ancient castle with a river and this completely dead forest that gives off a heavy, like, Skyrim or Lord of the Rings vibe.
Total moody fantasy atmosphere.
No, exactly. But the standout feature is how the environment actively fights against you. He built a fully functional dynamic weather system.
Which is just peak irony to me. I mean, Marcus actually managed to create working dynamic fog before the actual developers put it into their own game.
Right.
It's like having a moody film director actively controlling the weather while you play. But how do you even pull that off when you don't have access to the game's source code?
Well, you basically repurpose things meant for totally different jobs. Like, there is this static visual asset in the engine called FX column.
Okay.
Normally, that's just meant to simulate a stationary plume of smoke rising from a building fire.
Right, just a background effect.
Yeah. So Marcus took that static asset, manipulated its scale to be just massive, and tied it to a randomized timer logic.
Oh, wow.
So over the course of 45 seconds, this smoke pillar essentially stretches out and rolls across the map as a blinding fog bank.
That is so clever.
He also hard-coded snow to load at the very start of the match. That way, the snow doesn't awkwardly cop in out of nowhere, you know, it feels like a natural front moving through.
Which totally protects your immersion, and honestly, that intense weather does a lot of heavy lifting visually because it helps mask the seams of how this map was physically built.
Definitely.
Since he couldn't just drop in a pre-made 3D castle model, he had to construct one from scratch.
Exactly. He used basic assets labeled wall foundation and wall retaining.
Which are normally hidden, right?
Yeah, these are essentially the invisible concrete slabs and dirt barriers meant to sit underneath normal buildings. He just stacked them together like massive digital Legos to form fortress walls.
Which actually led to some really funny player feedback in the logs. People were saying they felt like tiny toy soldiers running around.
You can see why they'd initially think it was a design flaw, right? Because the scale of these foundations and gates is just enormous compared to a standard player model.
Yeah, a normal castle gate is maybe 3 people high.
But these are absolute behemoths, creating a very overwhelming sense of scale.
But I'm going to push back on the idea that the oversized scale is a mistake. I actually think it's a brilliant hack.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, think about the engine limits. Every custom map has a strict limit on how many individual objects you can place before the game crashes.
Oh right, the asset limit.
Exactly. If Marcus built the castle out of hundreds of normal-sized walls, he'd run out of pieces instantly. By scaling up massive foundation blocks, he covers way more ground using fewer assets.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Plus, there's a purely functional reason. He needed those oversized gates so that when they get blown up, full-size tanks can actually drive through the rubble without getting stuck.
And you know, that functional scale design specifically for tanks and massive pushes directly ties into the custom gameplay loop he built for this map.
The siege mode.
Right, siege mode. It's based on the standard breakthrough mode, where an attacking team plays tug of war to push defenders back, sector by sector. But Marcus completely rewired the logic under the hood.
Yeah, the rules here are completely different. Attackers and defenders actually choose their loadouts and defenses before they start.
And for the attackers, you actually only need to capture one objective point to advance to the next sector, instead of sweeping the whole area.
Which, I mean, on paper, that sounds incredibly easy.
It sounds like a cakewalk, yeah. But here's how Marcus implemented a custom economy system. He coded a script where bypassing those other capture points triggers a penalty flag for the next sector.
Oh, so it tracks what you skipped.
Exactly. If you rush forward without securing the whole area, the game mathematically punishes your team. You will spawn in the next zone with fewer headquarters, fewer vehicles, and drastically fewer tickets.
And tickets being the shared pool of lives your team has before it's game over.
Right.
It creates this terrifying snowball effect. Like, it's a brilliant strategic gamble. You can take the easy win now and bypass a heavily defended point, but by the time you reach the final boss level sector,
Your team is completely starved of resources.
exactly, it forces you to balance immediate tactical games against long-term match survival.
It really elevates a basic shooter into a deep strategic gamble, simply by applying clever logic gates to existing game modes.
It's amazing. Dawn of War isn't just a custom map, you know? It's a masterclass in repurposing basic assets to create dynamic weather, striking atmospheres, and deep strategic modes.
It really is.
Which leaves you with a lingering question to ponder the next time you boot up a game. If a single fan can cobble together such an intricate, atmospheric, and strategically complex experience just by remixing foundational wall assets and clever code,
Yeah.
what does that say about the untapped potential of community-driven game development compared to giant, resource-heavy studios?